Welcome to Washington, America show with international multimedia journalist and multidimensional artist Dr. Kashif Sohail.
How will COVID-19, coronavirus, change the shape of you and your work? We are adjusting to new ways of working as a result of the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. The COVID-19 has rapidly spread around the world, with many cities, regions entered a state of lockdown in an attempt to control the spread. The vast majority of you have had to get used to working from home. Unless you rank as key workers in medicine, food supply, or in other core utility or public service roles, you should get used to working from home.
Aside from the web connectivity challenge that this presents for some people, it also gives you a new set of challenges in terms of how you work. For many of you office workers, the set of tasks you are involved in can be encapsulated in a workflow of methods and responsibilities that everybody understands. How are you going to connect, collaborate, and cooperate effectively in the weeks ahead?
There are many questions to be asked here. Will working from home become the new accepted norm? When this situation is over and you can all officially return to the office, will those roles and functions that were previously thought of as requiring an office presence be changed forever? Can the time spent by employees now be more definitively and productively split between the office and home?
When working remotely, it goes without saying that technology becomes the heart of every interaction. But online video conferencing anxieties aside, you're all going to have to make sure that you understand the value of communication a lot better. For some of you, this whole shift is going to be massive. You may find that older school managers have become so dependent on the structure of physical office meetings that the leap is almost too much.
You know that some of you feel that you have to be in the room with other people in order to get things done. You don't have the soft skills needed to express yourself effectively over video and voice calls. Younger workers among the millennials and open-minded Generation X workers will have more of these skills, but for Generation Z this kind of thing comes instinctively. Just be your authentic self. Very often it may be the core family issues that people find most challenging. If you have children, then the next few more weeks will require you to navigate some new and unknown areas. How do you keep them entertained? What rooms can they go into? When is it appropriate for them to interrupt you if you're busy working? You will no doubt see countless memes and parodies of hilarious and unfortunate situations.
Born in and of the web cloud era, Generation Z is happy with a webcam pointed at them and will naturally feel less of a shift here. The employees are just one of the three corporate elements in the central work equation. Employers can find positives from remote work too, but equally, they may find that tracking some specific tasks and managing performance become harder. On the flip side, maybe now the kids, and/or your significant others, will start to understand what it is we do all day when going to work. Your family is now seeing aspects of work life that they won't get to experience until they themselves are in the thick of it. There's a positive to be gained here. As your families get exposed to your work methods and hear you on telephone calls and web-based video platforms, you gain a new and fresh feedback loop that may have never previously existed.
When your partner says, "Gosh, do you really talk to people like that?" you may stand back and assess the way you empathize with difficult workplace issues. Equally, of course, your partner may say, "Really? You let them get away with doing that?" You can perhaps look to one very significant change that COVID-19 might drive. With so many people stopping their daily commute, could the impact upon climate change and pollution by a downstream change that you are able to harness for lasting positive impact?
If you can be working effectively in the situation that has been handed to you, you may even be able to drive some positive self-reflection benefits out of the predicament. If you can increase the time spent on activities that fuel your creative thought, then perhaps you can help create world solutions to ensure that this dreadful pandemic is the last of its kind. Lately, much has been publicly debated regarding the shape of your current recession and the projected recovery thereafter. No one foresaw how the global economy could be impacted so fast and best by an economic, infectious disease.
You are all speculating, as no one has ever experienced this phenomenon before. As tax leaders and their executive colleagues continue to plan response scenarios for during and after the pandemic, it can be helpful to keep in mind the ABCs of recessions and recoveries. Although looking ahead can bolster effective planning and organizational resiliency, This holds true so long as that site is focused on the right target. Leaders need to understand the global landscape since economies are often unpredictable and can produce such events as bubbles and collapses.
Right now, it is too early to forecast with a certain degree of accuracy what specific fiscal policy adjustments or solutions governments will use to sustain economic stability after this current recession takes a deeper hold. It is also premature for governments to begin planning and making those decisions. Although you lack an exact model or historical replica of this global calamity, evidence of past downturns shows that when fiscal policy responses start too early in a recessionary cycle, it can actually compound the depth and duration of the recession, and perhaps worsen its spillover effect.
Consequently, managing and configuring each phase of the crisis, from stabilization to recovery and eventual growth, is paramount. That's why experienced and innovative strategic planners are now probing the likely complexity and intensity of this recession that has materialized in the wake of this global economic collapse caused by COVID-19. One way economists differentiate among recessions and their recoveries are by the trajectories that economic activity traces on graphs and past models during the contraction, and immediately afterward.
We're currently hearing a lot about the likelihood of a V-shaped recession and recovery sequence, though more so from elected officials than economists at this point. In this instance, after a dramatic decline in growth, GDP quickly bottoms out and is followed by a similarly swift recovery within a short time. You should keep in mind that generally, an average recession can last up to 13+ months. This V-shaped scenario is an optimistic one, although only slightly possible, given the extraordinary supply shock conditions leading to this large-scale, waterfall-like global distress.
This model presumes that the global economy will rebuild itself quickly once COVID-19's spread is contained and the means and mechanics of exchange, as well as business activity, return to normal. Relatively few economists believe this scenario is likely because it underestimates the massive economic impact the pandemic already has caused, as well as the potential impact of a number of foreseeable incidents. But more unpredictable still is human behavior.
You know that humans don't always behave rationally, often leading to judgment errors, biases, and preconceptions that can prevent sensible decision-making. Therefore, a second COVID-19 wave, or rebound, is probable should you miscalculate the business activity timing and eradication of the disease. U-shaped recessions take longer to reach a nadir and then linger there before a slower recovery takes hold. This scenario is more probable than a V-shaped recession because it accounts for the cyclical distress the pandemic caused, as well as the longer period of time that probably will be needed to recover from the global economic crisis.
You should not expect the instantaneous recovery of fragmented markets, the restoration of the labor force at full capacity. Hence, in this scenario, the W waves consider those lags, delays, and adjustments, however brief, that generally occurs in the aftermath of any economic shock. The W model is more fluid and realistic because it also considers that this particular economic cycle is very delicate.
A W-shaped recession poses unique risks for business, investors and consumers, who often adjust their labor, spending and investment decisions too early in the recessionary cycle before the real economic recovery takes hold. The measures taken by the nations around the world to manage the COVID-19 pandemic, restricting travel, shuttering non-essential businesses, and implementing universal social distancing policies, are having severe economic consequences. Coronavirus recession will not last forever.
At some point, the economy will reopen and start growing again, although what the recovery might look like is unclear. The best-case scenario for the COVID crisis is a V-shaped recession. If this happens, the economy will rebound as quickly as it has declined, with minimal long-lasting financial damage. If many businesses end up going bankrupt during the period of economic shutdown or are otherwise unable to reopen, there will be fewer jobs left. Please share the video, subscribe to our channel.